Hello, this is Pastor Roland. In the last segment, I promised that I would tell you about what Mr. A B Simpson had to say about finding the presence of God. And basically what he found was a nice little book called A Guide to True Peace Revisited. A Guide to True Peace Revisited. Here's an edition of it, which I myself made. I called it A Guide to True Peace Revisited. Originally it was entitled A Guide to True Peace. It's in the public domain. It contains the writings of three very spiritual Christians, actually Christian mystics, who found the presence of God. Okay? In other words, they found a deeper walk with God. They went deeper with God. They found God, the presence of God in their life. Okay? In other words, their religion came to life for them. They loved the Bible, they loved prayer, they loved the hymns. Okay? They loved thinking about God and about Jesus and hearing about Him. They loved all those things. They loved them so much. They loved God so much, and they sought after God so much that they were able to find Him in their everyday life. Okay? So they walked with God. It was said of Enoch in the Old Testament, he walked with God. And there was another prophet who was a friend of God. Okay? And David was a man after God's own heart. And what was so special about David? The first thing that he thought about, the first thing that he cared about was God. He was athirst for God, as E.W. Tozer would say, a thirst for God. Even though he was a king, had many important activities to attend to. His first thought was God, who he loved and sought. Okay? So these three people wrote about how they wrote to try to help everyone to experience God in everyday life. And so their writings were published in one book, excerpts from their writings in one book called A Guide to True Peace A Guide to True Peace, okay, which I have republished as A Guide to True Peace Revisited. So if you'd like to get the book, you can read excerpts from their writings. Now, who are these three people? Okay, first of all, Madame Jeanne Guyon. Madame Jeanne Guyon. These people all lived in the 1600s and early 1700s. Okay, very spiritual lady, and she wrote Experiencing God Through Prayer. Okay, another person whose writings appear in the book is Miguel Molinos, who wrote a spiritual guide. He lived in Italy at the same time. Okay, and then the other person whose writings appear in the book is Francois Fenelon. Francois Fenelon, he was actually a bishop, Catholic bishop. And you would think, being a bureaucrat like that, he wouldn't have found the presence of God, but he did. A very, very nice man, a very spiritual man. In fact, he was a friend of Madame Jeanne Guyon. They were good friends. Can you think about one? Isn't that amazing? A little peasant lady and this great bishop became friends. They both loved God. All right, so what did they find? They found a way of living their life so that they could experience the presence of God. And they found that you have to become still. It says in the Bible, become still and know that I am God. So you have to become still. Okay? Now here's what Mr. A.B. Tozer, or excuse me, what Mr. A.B. Simpson had to say about it. When he got the book, A Guide to True Peace, he got the book. Mr. A B Simpson, a very famous missionary, A B Simpson. And here's what he had to say. I'm reading here what he had to say, and it's from the book Meal in a Barrel by Amy Carmichael. She was also famous, missionary to India. She was a missionary to India for over 50 years. She founded an orphanage there. Here's what Mr. A B Simpson had to say. After having read A Guide to True Peace, he realized he needed to become still, okay? And incidentally, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I help Christians and people who are interested in the spiritual side of life, to learn how to become still. That's what my meditation is for. Okay, so these people, Madame Guyon, Francois Fenelon, Miguel Molinos, they would be very happy with my meditation. They may have had a meditation like that themselves. That just helps you to become still and experience the present and the presence of God. Okay? Here's what Mr. A B Simpson had to say. He said, among the books that have drifted down through the ages is one called A Guide to True Peace. It was given to Dr. A B Simpson of America in the midst of his busy life. It had only one thing to say: God is waiting to speak to us in the depths of our hearts, and he will speak only if we will be quiet enough to listen. 20 years after he read the book, Dr. Simpson told how he set himself to be quiet. At first, he thought this would be a very easy matter. But as he tried to still his heart, a pandemonium of voices assailed him, questions, cares, and his very prayers shouted round him. And there were satanic suggestions too, like voices talking to him. And the voices of the world's turmoil. Never before had there seemed to be so many things to be done, to be said, to be thought. In every direction he was pushed and pulled and greeted with noisy acclamations and unspeakable unrest. Okay, you know how that is. You lay down in bed at night and try to sleep, and your mind is a whirl. Swirling, swirling, swirling with thoughts of what happened and what you need to do and what's going to happen, and But at last he listened and slowly learned to obey that quiet word. Be still. He found that when the other voices ceased, or that he had ceased to hear and heed them, there was a still small voice in the depths of his being that began to speak with an inexpressible tenderness, power, and comfort. As I listened, he said, it became the voice of prayer and the voice of duty, and I did not need to think so hard, but that still small voice of the Holy Spirit in my heart was God's prayer in my secret soul. It was God's answer to all my questions, and it was God's life and strength for soul and body. And it became the substance of all knowledge and all prayer and all blessing, for it was the living God himself as my life and my all. Okay? That's what you need to find, is this still small voice. It's actually not a voice. It's a presence. It's a quiet knowing. It's a silent knowing. Okay? That's what you need to find in the present. Okay? So, that's why I'm here. Many of you yearn for something more. What you have is good. You love your spiritual writings. You love the Bible. You love the hymns. You love the preaching. You love hearing the spoken word. You love it very much. But still something more is needed to find the presence of God. Okay? So, maybe you can do so with, if I may be so bold as to say, with the help of my meditation. It's free. I call it easy meditation. I made a new one. It's only 6 minutes long, 6 or 7 minutes. I call it the easy meditation. Basically, it just shows you how to become still. Okay? Stand back from that squirrel cage of thinking and become still. Okay? And aware in the present moment of the presence of God. My name is Pastor Roland.